Igniting, inspiring, and evoking the fire within.
So success is really a mindset. It is also taking comparison out of your life, because we typically will compare our worst self with somebody else's best, and we don't ever measure up that way. And I love healthy competition, but the only person I'm in competition with is me.
You're listening to the What's Your Inspiration podcast with Fox Buyer.
On this episode of the What's Your Inspiration podcast, we have Kandy Graves. Kandy is a pattern-breaking energy therapist with 20 years of experience as an expert in the Epi-Genetic Protocol that diminishes trauma, up to and including PTSD in seconds. This is the latest and greatest breakthrough in quantum methodology. She teaches well-established coaches how to add this powerful healing dimension to their existing coaching business, as well as the novice who wants to impact the suffering in a powerful way. This should be interesting and fun. Here we go. Hello and welcome to episode 50. That's right, I said 50 of the What's Your Inspiration podcast. I'm Fox, and today a very special guest, a fellow Public Speakers Association member and pattern-breaking energy therapist with us today. She is Kandy Graves. Kandy, how are you today?
I'm awesome. Thank you so much for having me. This is exciting.
It is exciting, and thank you for, and if I could share this story, Kandy and I met at least virtually a couple of weeks back during a Public Speakers Association monthly virtual meeting. I threw the invite out there, and Kandy took the reins. So, Kandy, thank you again for now in the coming minutes sharing your story with us.
Sure, happy to.
Excellent. Kandy, you've been there. 20 years experience as a pattern-breaking energy therapist. What do you think are the key elements to living a life with purpose, passion, and success?
Wow, loaded question.
Very loaded. You can run however you want with that.
Yeah, so the Reader's Digest version would be heal your inner child. That's how you do that. And then the longer version would be the kind of the why behind the inner child is so important. And so just a tiny bit about my background. I didn't have so I'm gonna speak from two different veins or two different positions. So on one hand, I can say I didn't have the most ideal childhood. What I know today and understand is that I had the perfect childhood that taught me what I needed to learn in a really profound way. So, but let's go to the first version, because that's most of us identify with good, bad, challenging, easy, that sort of thing. So, being born addicted to a drug addict mom certainly created its, share of challenges. And so, I remember, especially because we're coming here to the end of the year, this was something that was really, really weighed heavy on me for a long, long time. And that was every New Year's Eve, I would arrive at New Year's Eve and I would be, is this going to be the year that it's going to be different? And then the next year would come and I found myself saying the same thing. Is this going to be the year that's going to be different? And I had really, truly had no concept of the fact that I was actually creating the same year over and over again. Talk about Groundhog Day.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So everything changed. And I love this quote, and I do believe it's, I wish I could give the right person the credit, but basically the saying is that Oh, shoot. I completely lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
Basically, what happens to us is we are looking outside of ourselves instead of inside, and that's where the answers are. So in me delving into my inner child and meeting the needs of that little girl who, quite honestly, her needs were rarely met, the most important needs were not met. My basic needs were met. So
Right. In terms of your inner child, I wanted to reflect on. I mentioned three things, and I know it was a loaded question to start, but if we look at success,
yeah,
thinking about what you do and your path, how would you define success?
yeah, that's a great question. So I think our ego minds are trained to immediately go to money. If you have money and a lot of it, you're successful. And I don't believe that. I mean, I'm not saying that if you have a lot of money, you're not successful.
Right.
But it isn't the end all, definitive factor in success. I'm very successful in terms of where I was and where I am now, and certainly where I'm going based on what I know and practice daily. So success is really a mindset. It is also taking comparison out of your life, because we typically will compare our worst self with somebody else's best, and we don't ever measure up that way. And I love healthy competition, but the only person I'm in competition with is me.
I'm hearing a lot about measurement, where you started and where you are now, and a little bit about the imposter complex as well, eliminating that. And I think what you're saying is if you eliminate that and you measure from where you started to where you are now, that's kind of what success is.
For sure. It isn't a dollar sign, although that certainly plays into it. Better today than I was yesterday, and certainly being present and living in this moment right here, right now. And today, I mean, I can honestly say that I actually understand what that means. I think I said it for a long time. I think I said it before I actually fully internalized it, but I do really understand the idea of living here and now, and the fact that this really truly is the only moment that I have any power and control over. It's the only moment that's real.
Yeah, speaking to lifelong learning and staying in the present moment, because we have no control over what happened in the past. And if we don't focus on the present, we're not going to affect the future the way we want to. Wisdom nuggets here on episode 50 of the What's Your Inspiration podcast with Kandy Graves. Kandy, I don't know if you listened to previous episodes. We have a little game called What, Which, and Where. I'm going to quote a book. I'm going to quote somebody, and I'd like you to tell me or guess from where or whom it came.
Okay.
Are you ready?
No pressure. Test anxiety.
Test anxiety. Will your effective filter stay open? I trust that it will. So number one in What, Which, and Where, it goes like this. Quote, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed.
Ooh, I like it. So what am I supposed to do with that? What?
Tell us from whom it came. This person, from reading about you and knowing the bit about you, is very near and dear to your heart.
So it's probably Bruce Lipton.
That's a great guess. I will give you another guess. It is not Bruce Lipton.
Deepak.
It is not him either. I would read it again for a third time's a charm. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed.
I don't know.
E equals MC squared.
Oh my goodness, Mr. Einstein.
Mr. Albert Einstein. Follow-up question on that.
So let me just add real quick.
Go
My
ahead.
favorite quote of his is "Everything is energy," and that's all there is to it. Basically change the frequency of the thing. Change your frequency to match what you want. And there's absolutely no way to not get that thing. That's not philosophy, that's physics, and that's certainly paraphrased.
Yes, and that's what I read that you wrote me, but I didn't want to make it too easy. I just wanted to go one degree of separation,
Yeah.
Mr. Einstein. So breaking off from that, is
Yep.
Albert Einstein the first person you think of when I mention the word energy? If not, who is it?
The first person that comes to mind?
Yes.
Yeah, well, so I'm going to go back to my default, Dr. Bruce Lipton. Yeah.
And why so? Why so?
Well, because I think mainly probably because the book he wrote, Biology of Belief, really helped bridge the gap for me. So I have this intellectual knowing because of the study I've done. And then I have a very working real life experience with it. And Dr. Lipton was able to connect the dots for me so that now as I experience it mentally, I go into, oh, this is what he was talking about, because I'm having the actual experience of it. And I facilitate that for clients. So I love the work that he's done and continues to do.
Clearly and concisely put. Okay, so question or part two of what, which, and where.
Oh, geez,
I've got three of them. Let's see if we can. Let's see how far we can go. The quote goes like this, Kandy: "You can't be a victim and a master at the same time."
Okay, and I'm to tell you which book. So, like I was sharing with you, I read a lot, and I have more than one book going at one time. And I was thinking Debbie Ford, because that's a really powerful book. So there's two others that I'm really focused on right now. One is The Course in Miracles, and I have been focused on that for quite some time. And then the other one would have to be the book I Am Word. And so I think that, say it one more time, I think it comes from Paul Selig, but tell me the quote again.
You can't be a victim and a master at the same time.
That, yeah, I'm going to go with I Am Word on that one.
You are correct. It is Paul Selig. Yes.
Good. I should probably read one book at a time. What do you think?
Well, I'm really putting a needle in a haystack with that. So kudos to you. You are one for two. And I was going to quote this person for number three, but you have I think a compelling story. Number three. You refer to this person as your surrogate mother. Who is it and why?
First of all, Lucille Ball.
Yes.
Okay. So I have, so if you know anything about the color code, I have a yellow personality. That is authentically me, yellow. And so if you know anything about a yellow person, they like to have fun. And I grew up in the confines of this home where addiction prevailed. And if you know anything about addiction, the addicted person is the center of the universe, and everyone and everything rotates around that person. So I showed up in a lot of really, adaptive ways, and having fun and being silly and making other people laugh, or trying to and wanting to laugh myself, wasn't highly prized or encouraged. So I was very much I became that red personality, right? Checklist, get it done, type A. And there was just this massive amount of incongruency for me. Today, I'm happy to report that I fully have stepped in and lived to a T my yellow personality. But I could go in my room and close the door and watch I Love Lucy and laugh. And I felt, as if she was laughing with me. She kind of looked like my mom, and she certainly had some aspects of my mom, and so I really connected with her as a role model, and she made people laugh, and she laughed, and so yeah, that's my connection to that surrogate mother of mine.
And with today's technology and everything, you can access her and watch old shows anytime you want.
I know. Even though my husband gifted me the entire I Love Lucy series on DVD.
Smart man.
Yeah, well, he knows that, the connection I had with her. So
Sure. All right. And that's a really, really cool story, and I didn't want to go without mentioning that or having you explain that. Thank
thanks.
you. That is the end of What, Which, and Where. You have survived.
I wondered if I would.
And you did. And you did. You thought it through. It was very highly intellectual. I wanted to go into the bottom half of this interview, this podcast.
Uh-huh.
Kandy, we know that all heroes don't wear a cape. But if you had the opportunity to take a 1-hour car ride with one of the following 3 people, who would it be and why? Would it be with Lucille Ball? Would it be with Dr. Martin Luther King? Or would it be with Dr. Bruce Lipton?
Well, I'm pretty sure I wrote those 3 down. If I didn't, I should have, because I really connect with all 3 of those. I would have to say probably I'm going to go with Dr. Lipton. Greg Brayton also, it kind of speaks in that same vein, but yeah, so I'd say Dr. Lipton.
Why is that so?
Well, like I said before, he's connected those dots for me from, mental understanding and awareness and the emotional, and, it connected that dot for me. And I just, I find the way he explains things, it's very easily understood for an untrained scientist. But I'm fascinated by what he knows, and have put a lot of what he talks about to the test. And I will say this: so when I first started this work 25 years ago or so, I had people say to me, "Well, so explain why this works," and I couldn't answer that question. A big part of why I couldn't answer it is quantum physics and epigenetics were an unknown thing that many years ago. Today, I can explain it in layman's terms for clients that really want to understand. They need to have that mental learning. They know physically and emotionally something just happened to them. And, I'll hear from them a week later, a month later, a year later, and they're still just amazed. And so to be able to tell them, well, here, this is why this is working, is just really gratifying, especially because I wasn't always able to do that for people.
He sounds like a great teacher. I mean, he's making for you, he made the complex simple.
Very, very much so. Yeah.
Good stuff. We said at the beginning of the very top of this podcast, you've been there and you've been through it all. You mentioned, being born to an addictive mother, What advice do you have for people who have felt like they have hit rock bottom?
Well, rejoice if you believe that. Definitely rejoice, because that's not such a bad place to be. It's rock bottom can facilitate now, okay, I've stopped digging, so I'm not going to go down any further. The only place is up. And I do feel like I reached that place. Even though I was married and had, these 3 awesome sons of mine, who, by the way, next to my mom, are probably my greatest teachers. Rock bottom just is not a bad place. It really isn't. It means you get to stop digging. And
it's quite sturdy.
It's very sturdy. And now begins the ascent. So.
Gotcha. I like that answer a lot. Who would you like to hear on an upcoming podcast?
That's a good question. Did I write down someone specifically?
You did not.
Oh, good.
I didn't ask.
Okay, good. Who would I like to hear? It could be anybody?
It could be anybody.
Anybody. Ooh. Alive or dead?
Well, I guess when I said anybody, I guess you could go either one. At this point, living. Let's go with
Oh,
living.
shoot. Okay. Living. Probably, there's so many deceased folks that I'd love to really commiserate with. So living, I would say, I hate to keep strumming his guitar, but
okay.
Yeah, Dr. Lipton, I think. I listen to quite a bit of what he says, and I read pretty much everything he writes. But yeah, to have a podcast, especially if I could be part of the interviewing process, that would be great.
I like that. I'll make it 3. We'll do 3, and you can lead. That's a great idea. I'm going to write that down and
right, there you go.
Previous guests who interview a guest, they recommend it. Wow.
Oh, I like it. Yeah, I like it.
So Dr. Lipton, all right?
Yeah.
And the final thing I'd like you to share is your contact information if someone would like to contact you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you could reach me from my website. Is probably the best way to do it, because I get an email directly there when you hit the chat bot at the bottom. So it would be, it's asyouThinkYouAre.com. So,
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Kandy, this has been great, from your personal stories to a little bit about how you try to impact other people's lives. Thank you for your time and space today.
Thank you, Fox.
It's been a pleasure. This will wrap up episode 50 of the What's Your Inspiration podcast. Kandy and I will talk at you all later. Take good care.
You have been listening to the What's Your Inspiration podcast with Fox Beyer, because impact on each other is the greatest currency you could ever have.